Hi guys, it's Maureen again. I'm coming to you from the studio of Creative Wedding Solutions from in front of the humongous red wall. And today I thought I would make a video talking about the possibility of enjoying your wedding planning. Is it possible? I've been asked this question. Is it even possible to enjoy planning your wedding? And I thought it would be a good video to make because, yes, I believe that it is possible. In fact, I know it is possible that anyone who's planning a wedding can actually enjoy it despite the stresses that come with planning a wedding. So I thought I'll just share a few tips actually for you guys so that I again have a cheat sheet because I just want to make sure that I give you guys all the information that comes into this head of mine. So don't mind me when I look away, and let's get started. Is it possible to enjoy planning your wedding? Yes. And then the next question I usually get is how? Well, here's how. There are a few things. So the first thing I advise people to do is, as a couple, you need to sit down and basically get clear on what you want your planning process to feel like and to be. Not your wedding itself. I mean, you do need to talk about that too. But when you're talking about planning, it's an entirely different beast. And so you need to actually know how you want to feel and what your goals are for your planning process. And one of the main goals, if you want to enjoy your wedding, one of the main goals should be, I would like to enjoy planning our wedding. So if that is something that you find that's important to you, which it probably is to most people, I'm not really sure if they actually think about it or if it's something that we're all cautious of, but realistically speaking, it makes no sense to be planning one of the best days of your life and to be miserable planning it. So I assume that everybody wants to enjoy planning their wedding. So to that end, sit down with your partner and your fiance and discuss what it is that you guys would like your planning process to look like and to feel like. And if you prioritize being able to enjoy the process, then you'll find ways to achieve it. So that's really simple. It's actually not that complicated. So that's the first thing. The second thing is being intentional about enjoying your planning process. So once you discuss what you want to do, and once you discuss that and you have agreed, both of you have agreed that you'd like to enjoy your planning process, the next thing that you want to do is to be intentional about it. So put a system, sort of, so to speak, a system in place that will allow you to enjoy your planning process. And one of the things that you might want to do is also mentally prepare for the process in its entirety, meaning everybody knows that wedding planning is stressful. So ideally, you want to actually be aware of the fact that it has the potential to be stressful and to know how it can be stressful, and then to also understand that that's okay because you can work around those things. If you sort of do this, there are a lot of, I think a lot of people have a hard time with planning with wedding planning because they sort of err on both extremes. So there are people who are basically in this whole state of mind where it's like, oh my gosh, it's going to suck, it's going to be painful, it's going to be difficult, it's going to be awful. And of course, if you approach anything from that perspective, you are going to be miserable because you're expecting it to be miserable. So it doesn't matter what the situation is. If you expect that it's going to be stressful, you pretty much set yourself up for a stressful situation. So there's that category of people. And then the category of people who err on the other end, which is like, it's going to be wonderful. Everything is going to be fantastic. It will be okay. So it's sort of like the head in the clouds sort of perspective, where you're not really being honest with yourself about the reality of like what it is that you're doing. It is a fact. If you're planning a wedding for yourself, and there's a bunch of things to do, and you're having a bunch of people over, and you want it to be so wonderful, and you want it to be perfect, and you want it to be special, of course there's going to be some things that are stressful, and of course you can't expect that everything's going to go the way you want it to go. So knowing that is something that will be helpful to you, because if something goes wrong while your head is up in the clouds, it's a lot more shocking and a lot more difficult to process, which is how people start melting down, because they haven't given themselves the ability to create the room for things not going perfectly, or for things, maybe having to change a little bit, or even change a lot, or whatever it is that happens when you're planning a wedding. So being honest about what the process of planning can be like will help you to prepare better for it mentally and emotionally, which will make for a better sort of situation in which there will definitely be more room for you to enjoy the planning process. Because again, there's no skeletons jumping out of the closet, and there's no things that are shocking you to the point that you just don't really know what to do. I know. I was about to say it, but I refrained. Okay, so point number 3. Be honest about what you can and cannot handle. And then do what is necessary to get everything handled. Meaning, if you are not good at keeping to a schedule, be honest about it, and then don't take it on. Don't put yourself in a position where you have to do something that you're not good at when you actually know that you're not good at it. You are going to be miserable. What you are better off doing is just basically acknowledging, I'm just not really good at the time scheduling thing. So that will allow you to have a plan for keeping to a schedule so that you're not running behind on the things that you need to do. Same thing if you're not organized. Be honest about it, and then enlist the help of the people who can actually help you. If you are not good at keeping a schedule, for example, staying on schedule of things, and you procrastinate, if you know somebody who, maybe your sister or your cousin or whatever, somebody is better at doing that, then you can, call them up and say, hey, any chance you can actually be my go-to person for staying on the schedule? Do you know what I mean? Like that sort of thing. That will be much more helpful for you and a lot more pleasant in the whole scheme of things. I hope that makes sense. Enlist the help of people who are good at certain things so that you don't have to be stuck doing things that you're not good at and therefore being miserable because you are going to botch them up, if that makes any sense. Number 4, avoid stretching yourself thin. And this includes things that you're good at. So you might find that you're actually very good at many of the things that you need to do while planning your wedding. But that does not actually mean that it's a good idea for you to take them all on. So avoid spreading yourself thin. Why? It's very simple. When you spread yourself thin, you get exhausted. When you get exhausted, you get stressed. When you get stressed, you get miserable. When you get miserable, you make other people miserable. And you know what I mean? And you're not productive. So the cycle continues. So just whatever the case may be objective about the number of tasks and responsibilities and things you should take on so that you can allow yourself enough time to actually enjoy the things that you're doing, as opposed to sort of taking on too much and then stretching yourself so thin that you can't actually breathe or enjoy the moments and that whole thing, the whole process. This is point number 5. As a couple, it will be helpful for you guys to agree on who is in charge of what. So, meaning, if you are, which I am assuming you probably are splitting some things. So if someone is in charge, if you guys are clear on who is in charge of what, it will help you guys avoid conflict. Meaning you're not basically expecting someone to do something but you didn't really talk about it and it's not really clear, and then one of you gets upset because I'm doing too much and you're not doing enough, and that whole, rigmarole that I've had to counsel many couples about. I've literally sat down with a bride crying and a groom really upset because the bride is so frustrated that the groom is not doing enough, and the groom is so frustrated because he did not know that she was expecting that he should do certain things. So it's important, if you guys want to enjoy your planning process, to discuss what it is that you guys are going to be doing, who's going to be doing what, when you're going to check in, how you want to navigate the logistics of all of that, and what you're responsible for. And then once you actually delegate, once you guys actually split your duties, avoid micromanaging each other. Let everybody do what they're supposed to do, and then check in when you're supposed to check in, and then just leave it at that and let everybody else do what they're going to do. You're getting married. You're grown-ups. You're not kids. So you don't need to be on top of each other or monitoring who is doing what. Just trust each other once you take on the responsibility to do your part. And if both of you do your parts, you'll both enjoy the process a lot more. Do not be afraid to switch plans if one plan is not working. So, meaning, be flexible. If you started out and you had plan A, and that's the one you both thought was going to work out great, And then you start planning and you realize, okay, plan A is not going as smoothly and it's getting a lot more difficult and it's becoming more painful and it is becoming more unpleasant and that sort of a thing. Then consider a plan B. Consider changing certain things, because sometimes it feel when a lot of people are planning, and this is something I've heard, it does often feel when you hold onto a plan so tightly and you don't want it to change, it ends up feeling a little bit like you're trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. And that is so unpleasant because you are going to be trying a whole lot and really hard, and you are not going to get results. So your best bet is to sort of go into it with an open mind and just sort of think, okay, this is ideally what we would like. However, we understand that, it may not actually play out this way. And if it doesn't, that's okay. We can work around it. Do you know what I mean? And just be a little bit more soft as opposed to like very rigid. Everything is so much better when you're more flexible. So, and it will help your creativity. It will help your process. It will help your growth. It will help your relationship. It helps your whole entire life. So there's no reason not to do it. So there you go. My next point is be clear on your non-negotiables and your negotiables. So this is important when we're talking about in relation to flexibility. And here's what I mean. When I say be flexible, it doesn't mean, I know some people feel really frightened by the idea of flexibility, because it seems like when someone says be flexible, it means like be willing to change everything and anything all the time. And yet when you're really into something, you don't want to be told that you should be willing to change everything all the time, because it just means there's no real guarantee that you're going to get anything that you want. So what I usually advise my clients to do is, that's actually one of the first things I usually ask my clients is, what are the things that are not negotiable for you? So you have a plan and this is what you envision. What are the things you are not willing to change under any circumstances? Meaning, you are willing to do whatever it takes to have those things at your wedding, no matter what. And it's not an option to not have them. What are they? Make a list, both of you. Make a list of your non-negotiables. And this is in lieu of the fact that you've already made a list of the things that you want. So I'm assuming you have a big picture, and then once you've seen that big picture, now take a clear look at them and then decide what your non-negotiables are. And then that way you're clear on the negotiables. What that means is that when it comes to planning, if you had an idea of, oh, okay, so like we want our Arabian Nights theme. So if that's your plan, that's a good theme. That sounds awesome and it sounds exciting. And then when you start planning, you realize, man, maybe you book a location, which is something that people do. Maybe you book a location and then you look at the location because you like it and it fits you for many, many reasons. You think, okay, so the location fits us perfectly, except for creating an Arabian Nights theme in this location. That's going to be really difficult. It's doable, but it's going to cost so much that it will get us out of our budget. If you're negotiable on what your theme is, and it's more important to you, for example, to have good food, and you have already established that, you're not going to spend so much time stressing and turning yourself inside out and trying to figure out how to get this humongous place that is not really, that's going to take so much time and trouble and labor and so many other things, expenses, to get it to look the way you had thought it might look. So you might decide, well, hey, the theme, that's negotiable. I like Arabian Nights theme, but as long as it has such and such and such and such, I'm okay with that. Do you know what I mean? So it's something like that. You just need to know what it is that you absolutely are not willing to budge on, because then you're not spending too much time negotiating or like trying to work around things that are not important to you just because it's an idea that you had to begin with. I have 3 more points and then we're done here. Okay, my next point is, don't take yourself too seriously during your planning process. Find humor in the crazy and unexpected moments. There are going to be so many bizarre things that will happen, so many unexpected things that will happen, so many not so pleasant things that will happen while you're planning your wedding. Why? Because that's just the nature of the game. So when you walk into a place and you were hoping that you were going to get some crazy deal, some really awesome deal for something that you were really excited to have, and then you find out that, oh no, it actually costs twice as much as you thought it was going to cost. Be prepared to just sort of be like, okay, I didn't know that's what it was going to cost. And just be prepared to sort of let it roll. Do you know what I mean? Like, just see the humor in it, you know, and find something light about it. It's everything. It's not that serious. Yes, it's a wedding, but it's okay. If one thing doesn't work out, another thing can. So if you just prepare yourself to sort of just see humor in unexpected things, it will be a lot more pleasant for you to deal with those unexpected moments, as opposed to like having some kind of traumatic event every single time something happens that you did not expect. Which, let's face it, since you don't plan a wedding every day, there's going to be many of those. So, just so you know. Okay, second to last point. Be kind to yourself. Meaning, if you make a mistake, be kind to yourself. Recognize that you don't do this every day, so it's okay to make a mistake. If you drop the ball somehow because you just didn't know any better, or you made a bad decision, or you upset somebody, or whatever it is, you know what I mean, disappointed someone, just cut yourself some slack and just know, you know, as long as you're doing the best you can, that's really all that you can do. And understand that, like, honestly, the more kind you are to yourself, the kinder you are to other people. And when you're kind to other people while you are planning your wedding, the more willing they are to help you. So it's a nice little cycle, but it works. Be kind to yourself. And then my last point is be quick to right your wrongs. So during your planning process, despite many, many preparations, including all the things that I'm telling you right now, you will still slip up. You will offend people. You will drop the ball. You will make mistakes. You will get stressed out and snap at somebody, maybe your significant other or your mother or whoever. When all those things happen, one, know that they are very likely to happen. Because again, it's the nature of the beast. And I'm not saying it has to happen. If you can avoid it, wonderful. But like, allow yourself that room to know that that's a very likely scenario. So since you're aware that that is a thing that's likely to happen, when it does, be quick to right your wrong. If you offended somebody, apologize. If you made a mistake, instead of spending so much time, being frustrated about it, or being angry with yourself about it, or angry with somebody else, or this and that and the other, spend more time trying to find a way to rectify the problem. And I'm going to be clear on this one. This includes your close friends, the people who are helping you plan, your bridesmaids, your significant other, family and that sort of thing. And do not forget the people that you're working with, meaning the people that you actually pay money to help you with your event. Many people have this strange misconception that somehow because they're paying money to someone, they have a right to behave badly. That is not true. And no matter what kind of bride you are, and no matter what kind of groom you are, and no matter how stressed out you are, there's just no reason for it. Do people understand it and recognize it? Yes. Does it mean that it's okay? No, it isn't. So if you find yourself being snippy with a vendor that you're working with because you're having a rough day, or because things are just not going the way you want, remember that that same person is the person who's going to be helping you to put this thing together. So right your wrong. Just apologize. I've actually heard people say things like, well, you're in customer service. People are in customer service, and that's their job, and the customer is always right. And I guarantee you it's actually not true that the customer is always right. In fact, in this particular industry, the customer is most often not right because they don't really know what they're doing. So I'm just being honest with you. This is not to say that you can't be right. It's just that realistically speaking, most people, when they're planning a wedding, they don't really know what they're doing. So understand that you're depending on these people to do things for you and to help you, to give you good prices, to give you references for people who can do the things that you're not able to do. So treat them well. And if you mess up, which everybody does, absolutely remember to say, hey, that thing that I said earlier, that time when I snapped at you, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. I'm having a rough day. We get it. And we appreciate it when that happens. Okay. I wish you guys happy planning, and do not forget to be free to be you. Peace.